Hi, do you guys think wine, cheese, and tea and coffee are good for a healthy microbiome? I'm Dr. John Douillard, LifeSpa.com. I want to talk to you about things that are going to be good for your microbial diversity and things that are not going to be good for your microbial diversity. What does that mean? We should have a lot of different kinds of bugs in our gut. That provides immunity and strength and resiliency and longevity. A study, really amazing study, they did it out of poo from a museum, 1,000-year-old poo from a museum in New Mexico and Utah. They found that those people 1,000 years ago had so much more diversity, different microbes in their gut that don't even exist today, compared to people today, modern people, that they said that the difference between their gut microbiome diversity and ours was so dramatic that they're literally calling it an extinction event, that our lack of diversity is something they're linking to our extinction, which is really, really important. So let's talk about some of the things that cause lack of microbial diversity, lack of the variety of good bugs in your gut. One study found different factors that can cause your gut to have lack of diversity, lack of good bugs. 60 factors had to do with diet. 19 factors had to do with different drugs. In a study in Europe with 4,000 people, they directly linked drug use, medications, pharmaceutical grade drug use to lack of microbial diversity, right? 12 from different diseases and 4 from smoking. So what the takeaway from that study was: quit smoking, don't do drugs, and then pharmaceutical drugs, and the way you do that is by preventing with the things that actually address the dietary issues, the junk food and all the processed food. Eat whole foods. Make sure when you eat a food that you recognize, you can look at it and go, I know exactly what plant this came from. I know exactly what maybe animal this came from if you're eating animal products. But we should be able to recognize the source of the food when we eat it, and if we don't, you're eating a processed food. And that's linked to lack of microbial diversity, which is really important. Things that we know for a fact that will increase your microbial diversity are yogurt, right? Fruit, vegetables. Organic, of course, because if you spray them, you kill all the bugs. And when you spray those pesticides, when you eat them, they kill the bugs in your gut that actually help you digest certain foods like wheat and dairy and nuts and seeds, things that are harder to digest, right? So you just got to eat non-sprayed food. That's just the bottom line. And also things like wine and coffee and tea, also in this study, which is quite a big study, were shown to increase your microbial diversity. So a little bit of wine, a little bit of tea, a little bit of coffee can actually be shown to increase your microbial diversity. But be careful. The study also shows that the tea and the wine and the coffee should be with the food, not outside the food, because it works and it supports healthy digestion, right? If you want to help your microbiome, you got to eat it with the food that have the bugs in it, which is in fact the food and the coffee and the tea and the wine together. But you can't do too much of it. There's a lot of issues with coffee, particularly the caffeine in coffee creating an addiction. And the rule of thumb from the Ayurvedic perspective is, if you wake up thinking about a cup of coffee, or if you come home from work thinking about a glass of wine, or you need that cup of tea to get through the day in the afternoon, those are things that have somewhat control of you. Your senses are being controlled by these substances. So get a handle on that. If you can have a cup of coffee once in a while, or try a Swiss water processed decaf coffee, which doesn't have the caffeine in it, and then you have it, you just don't have that mental addiction, which can actually drive your adrenals, that caffeine, to make energy you don't really have. So if you keep stimulating, make energy you don't really have, eventually the body becomes depleted. You run out of gas. You can't continue to borrow from Peter to pay Paul on a regular basis. You've got to take care of yourself. And that means not stimulating yourself to get through every single day. So be aware of the downside of tea and coffee and wine. Again, I wrote an article about the Ayurvedic approach to alcohol. And alcohol at a very low level, it calms your mind, allows you to actually even be more transcendent, to actually drop in and be more spiritual, because you're not in your head so much. But the slippery slope is that more can actually really dull your senses and really dull your mind and dull your clarity and your refined perception if you're looking at trying to kind of raise your vibration and have a higher quality spiritual life, right? So there's a slippery slope in all of it, but the research is showing that a little bit of tea, a little bit of wine, a little bit of coffee, and fruits and vegetables and yogurt are the top ones to increase your microbial diversity. Please take advantage of that, because lack of that diversity, we now know, according to a pretty amazing study, is an extinction event. All right, thanks for listening. Please check out this article, all the science behind it, at LifeSpa.com. Talk to you next week. I'm Dr. John Douillard.